Creating forms using coils as a hand-building technique is a great way to make unique pieces that are structurally strong, able to take numerous shapes, and quick to build. Every time you attach a piece of clay to another piece of clay, from the tiniest detail to the largest slab, you have to slip and score. Scoring refers to adding texture lines or small slits across the whole length of the clay that is being attached on, as well as the clay that has another piece of clay being attached to it. These texture lines should be close together, deep enough to feel as you slide your fingers across it, and can be in any direction. Slip is added to the clay piece right along the score lines as the glue to hold the clay together. Slip is added to both the clay that is being attached as well as the clay that will have another piece attached onto it. A little bit of slip goes a long way. You do not need to use much. The first coil needs to be attached by slipping and scoring directly on top of the slab base. Texture side meets textured side. Make sure to gently but firmly press down as you are attaching a piece of clay, in this case a coil, to another piece of clay. This will help strengthen the bond between the slipped and scored pieces of clay. Once that first coil is attached, smooth out the coil on the outside all the way around the form. If the clay is hard to smooth, lightly spray your fingertips with water and then continue to smooth out the coil. This will add a bit of moisture to the clay, but by avoiding spraying the clay directly, will not oversaturate the clay with water. The coil can be smoothed by pulling down until it blends into the clay of the base. Gentle pressure must be applied to blend the clay together. Continue until the coil is smoothed all the way around, bonding the pieces of clay together strongly. In order to make sure your functional piece is watertight, meaning that no liquid will leak out of the bottom, you must also smooth the coil all the way around on the inside as well. After this first coil is smoothed completely on the inside, you do not have to smooth the rest of the inside coils if you do not want to. It depends on what you'd like for the finished final look to be for the piece. Pull the clay down from the coil into the base as you're smoothing it as well. Remember, it is okay to wet your fingers if the clay feels dry or hard to work with, but do not directly spray the clay. Continue until the whole coil is smooth on the inside all the way around. As a reminder, every time you attach one piece of clay to another piece of clay, you must slip and score to ensure it will stay together through the bisque fire. For this portion of the demonstration, I want my piece to go straight up and down, like a cylinder. So to get this form in clay, I must stack the coils directly on top of each other, similar to how my fingers are, laying right on top of each other on my hand. This will give me a form that goes straight up and down. When attaching a coil or any other piece of clay, scored or texture side meets scored or texture side, and gentle pressure is applied to join the two pieces of clay together. Pinch together coils at the end where they meet to ensure no air pockets will be in the coils. It is important that when you build with coils, that you do not start a coil and end a coil at the same spot every time. This will make a very fragile, weak spot on your piece that will be susceptible to breaking. Instead, be sure to start and stop a coil at a new place on your piece every time. As mentioned before, the length of the coil is not important. The thickness of the coil is. It should be uniform in thickness to ensure an even level on the top of the form when building. For this portion of the demonstration, I am not slipping and scoring these coils on, as they will not be where they are permanently attached. I am simply showing how to build with coils. You must slip and score every time you attach one piece of clay to another piece of clay. Remember, extra lengths of clay coils can be added on if a coil that you put on to begin with is not long enough to wrap all the way around the form. Let's say that I want to make a form out of coils that goes out in a rounded way like a fishbowl. I will demonstrate this next. Remember, you have to slip and score every time you attach clay to clay. Just because I am not doing it in this demonstration doesn't mean that you cannot do this. To create a rounded out fishbowl appearance to my form, I am going to stack my coils, like my fingers, slightly on the outside of the previous coil. This will give it a rounded look and make it look like it's growing out. Making sure to start and stop the coils in a new spot each time to ensure there is not a weak spot in my form, I am stacking the coils on the outside of the previous coil by just a little bit. Again, extra coils can be added onto the form to go all the way around to join up with where the coil began at. Too long of a length of coil can be pinched off and saved to work with later if the coil is longer than the entire form. If you plan to have your form go out like a fishbowl, continue adding coils that are stacked slightly on the outside of the previous coil. This will make your form go out like a fishbowl, as demonstrated here. To create a form that goes in, like the top of a vase, you must stack your coils in an opposite way of what you did when you were creating the rounded out fishbowl look. Just like my fingers here, your coils must be stacked slightly on the inside of the previous coil. This will make the form taper in. Remember, once again, that every time you add one piece of clay, like a coil, to another piece of clay, you have to slip and score, every single time. This time, the coils will be stacked a bit on the inside of the previous coil. Again, going all the way around the form until the end of the coil meets the beginning. Remember, additional lengths of coils can be added on, or longer lengths of coils can be pinched off. Don't forget to start and stop at a different place on the form each time you add a new coil. By stacking the coils in this way, putting them slightly on the inside of the previous coil, your form will taper in like the top of a vase. Lastly, I recommend slipping and scoring on 5 coils at a time before smoothing any out. This will keep the coils from pinching too small at the top and making it more difficult to attach the next coil onto. This is how to build with coils.